Hi, this is Erik Saunders with the Youth Football Coach's Handbook, and we are moving into our game management chapter. And so we're going to take a little bit of time today and discuss some of the habits and techniques that you're going to want to think about when it gets ready to be game day. There's a lot that goes into it, and certainly there's a few things that you don't want to be having to do and adjust to on the fly. You'd rather be prepared for. So we're going to jump right in and just quickly tell you what all the chapters are going to be. So in this segment, we've got preparation and working with play cards, risk cards, fanny packs, and ways to get your plays in. We're going to discuss some advice on getting all of your players to the game on time, as that certainly can be a very nerve-wracking thing, and there's a few tips to help you get there. Pre-game routines, what you should do and what you might want to avoid during a game for warm-up, for your plays, for reads, hitting, and scouting the other team. A couple of tips on how to choose captains and what to think about there. Maybe some topics for pregame speeches, how long they should be, things of that nature. Game themes, and specifically what we do is we have a little game theme each week where we might have a fight or a Christmas theme or a scavenger hunt. We try to get the guys to focus in on some message that's kind of familiar to them based on those things. Where to position yourself during the game on the sidelines and what to look for. That's kind of, you're not in youth football, at least in Pop Warner, you're not supposed to have scouts, so this is kind of an interesting topic here. And then play calling, charting your adjustments, interacting with referees, how to deal with a game if you're winning it big or if you're losing it big, and really what type of mode you might go into if you're in a tight game. So, and then wrapping it up and making a post-game speech and some things that we do to finish up our game and put a bow on it. So we're going to go ahead and start first with our preparation. And the first thing we're going to talk about is our game management sheets. And our game management sheet that we use, and I'm just going to click right over, and this is a spreadsheet that is on the website that you have access to. And it's very printable, so if you go up in here and go to print and print preview, it prints out as a pretty nice looking card there, and it's one of these jobs that you might want to laminate and keep in your pocket as you're working the game. So, but first off, there's a place for your plays, so you can load them all right in there, and obviously you can have as many as you want. If you're coaching youth football, you can see I've got about 16 or 17 plays here, and a couple of those, one of them's a no play, so one of them's a punt, which we don't really ever do the quick kick to very much. So for the most part, you see I've got about 10 or 12 plays that I really are my go-to plays. So in each week we might have the play du jour, but so you got a place to list out your plays, and then over on the side we have kind of a box that I use to quantify whether or not I want to use this play. It's okay. It's more than 10 yards. It's between 5 and 10 yards. It's less than 5 yards. It's third down, or it's a conversion play, like a 2 or 1 point conversion, depending on your league. And I just put a green or red in there, and I just, there are times that I know that I want to stay away from a counter. I don't like to use a counter on a third or a conversion. Any short distance situation, when you go with a counter or a cross play, if there's a high chance of a blitz, you probably don't want to counter. You want to sweep or try to get outside, get away from that stuff that's coming through the middle. But if there's more blockers in the middle, more defenders right in the middle of the line, you don't have as good of a chance to run across. So I just kind of take those types of things into consideration, and I just make my best guess. And a lot of times, it's not a perfect science, and I don't always use it, but what it really does is if you're in the middle of a game and you got to call a play, so you got to have some mechanism that works for you to help you get the play call. So this is my little very rudimentary system to just say the play's over. I was expecting to have just gotten 4 or 5 yards on my last play, and we fumbled the snap, and now instead of third down and 2, I've got third down and 9 or 10 or whatever I've got, and so the play that was going to be my build on play, or my I go at plays in succession a lot of times. That play's gone now. I was going to run a dive next, or I was going to do some different type of play that I didn't really need to get 8 yards with. So now I have a way to come back in here and say, okay, new deal. not what we expected, something different. Get my play called without kind of getting a little rattled. Sometimes you're standing on the sidelines, something doesn't go your way. You're the coach. You need to have things together. So you don't want to be sitting there trying to figure out, call a timeout because you need to think about what play you want. You don't want to waste your timeouts just to make a decision if you could have had a system to make that decision. So that's what we put right there. Over here, I put in all of my rosters. So all my little depth charts that I got. So I have first half on offense, and I throw down all their names. I have our second half in Pop Warner. You can have kind of a all-star lineup to some degree, or you don't have to play the guys both ways in the second half, so you can get a little more liberal with your lineup. And I do keep a lineup over there. I don't always use this lineup. If we're winning big or if we're losing big, I don't use that. But if it's a tight game and I need to do a little tinkering, I have my tinkering lineup. And then I have my blowout lineup, which is, my younger guys. A lot of times, if we're crushing them or if we are being defeated handily, shall we say, I have a lineup of guys that I want to see. And a lot of times what happens, I take all my backs and some of my better stud players, if you will, and I start trying to move them into the line. And it's kind of funny because they're really not that great of blockers, as good as they are at running the ball sometimes. But they don't know the assignments is a real problem. But I try to get my younger kids in here. I try to get guys that need the experience, that I know if we make it to the playoffs or the end of season game or whatever you've got, that they're not going to be seeing those spots in those games. So let's get them in here now. So those are the three types of lineups. So offense, defense, and special teams. And I can tell you that on special teams, I don't know how many times that you have, you send the special teams out in the field, there's always somebody missing. So, this is a great thing. I just stand right on the sidelines, literally call them, one name at a time and say, let's get everybody out here. Here's what we got, and I line them all right up right there and I send them out in a line. Kick return team, I call the first row, or, so we get these first 6 guys and I send them and I call the second row, and I stand on the line, I stand on the field line that the guys need to go out on. So, we put the kick return team, and I believe it's on the 50. It's a little early in the morning right now. But, so I stand right there, and then we go back 10 yards, and we go back 10 yards, whatever. So, it just makes for an easy way to get them on the field. In Pop Warner, you're also allowed to use, for your conversions, you can use any lineup you want. You don't have to obey the must-play rules. So, this PAT, a lot of times, is the same as my stud roster, if you will. But there they are, and nonetheless it makes it very easy. And if you have a guy get hurt, then you can kind of put a little scratch by his name, and when you're calling your lineup, because that's the worst thing. I mean, if you've coached for any more than a couple of years, you have sent players onto the field to run a play, and they get out there. And we ran 2 plays last year in a bowl game with 10 players on offense because I let my tackle play fullback because we were doing very well, and I just thought it would be fun to do. Well, no other tackle went in. I missed it. So, I had the game card, I just missed it. So everybody's probably done it, or it's happened to everybody, however you want to say it. But this does cut down on it quite a bit. So over in the corner here, you can put whatever you want. But, everybody's got stuff that they want to remember. For me, I like to put my blitzes over there just so, and I'm not actually calling my own blitzes this year. I've got somebody doing that just so they can enjoy the game as well. But I like to keep it there, and I kind of, if I'm looking at the situation, I may sit there and look down and think, what are we going to do here? Should we be aggressive or not be aggressive? I put down reminders of when I should use timeouts, because there are times in the game that, I look at the sheet, I'm looking for a play, and sometimes on an important conversion, and you can lose a lot. I've lost a few games on conversions, so I've got maybe a little thing there. But if there's something that you as a coach know is not your strong suit, and for me it's conversions, it's just not my bag. And I tell all my assistant coaches at the beginning of the year, come get me on conversions, because I just get all crazy. I want to run gadget plays for some reason. I don't know what my deal is. So a lot of times if we're in a really tight, important game, I may take a timeout on the conversion to make sure I get the right players in there. Maybe it was we ran for a really long ways and we scored. Maybe the kids are wiped out, and I might want to go out and water them down before we go in and try to do that conversion. So if I think, and then of course the opposing team has a big play, a lot of times I'll go out there because screaming from the sidelines, they can't hear us. So you might as well save your breath, telling them, to watch the ball and look out for the dive, and they're going to reverse. They can't hear you. There's once in a blue moon. Usually what happens is right as the ball snapped, they look over at you and say, "What?" So that doesn't work out too good. But at any rate, there are times I put my keys to remember when to take my timeouts, and so I just, I see these things during the game. I may not see it, but sometimes it helps me remember to be smart. Pick a play for me. If I've got guys that pick a play, which is the reward system for us, then I make sure I've got their name in there, and I scratch their names off as I get their pick a plays done. And then I have my pregame routine, so I put down the things that I want to get knocked out in pregame and make sure that I stay on it. I'm all amped up during pregame and very excited, and if I don't have a pretty clear plan, I may start having the guys hit needlessly. So this is the game card right here, and it works out pretty well, and hopefully you'll find that useful. We're going to hop back over to the presentation. So that's the play sheet right there. And scenarios, we've got that depth chart